Hey folks, what's up? Welcome back to another Palm Massive video. And since the tier list maker thing hasn't updated with the new units on there yet, I had to take matters into my own hands and just throw them into like the other egg tier list thing I made. That's a side note. But yeah, today let's go over the new units and as usual, and just I guess in general give my thoughts about each one of them in terms of which one's probably better than the others, and in general, all that stuff, right? So, anyways, I don't know. Should we do this top down or bottom up? Let's do this. I don't know. Let's start with the bottom. Of these four, I don't think anyone is particularly bad. I don't think none of these four are objectively a bad unit. But I do think probably the weakest one over here is Weezing, and I think Weezing is actually spectacular for a unit that does not have a Synchro, which is, it does have limitations without a Synchro. First of all, it doesn't have move gauge refresh, right? Unless you're Pheromosa and you just have move gauge refresh on your passive, but, Weezing, again, doesn't have a Synchro, no move gauge refresh, no MP refresh or whatever, right? So, unfortunately, I would have to rank it the least out of all of them. But again, for a unit without a Synchro, this is a really, really good unit. I do think people are kind of overlooking Weezing. I definitely think Weezing is much better as a unit in general than Jessie is, unfortunately for Jessie. But again, these two units work very well together. You could run them on the same team and they'll be fine, right? So, like it gives you really good, like last word's kind of pointless, but everything else is great, right? It's solid defensive stats, right? If especially if you raise it to a 5-star, you're getting like near 300, right? 277 physical defense. Well, that's max potential actually. Okay, never mind. You might not want to max potential unless it gets an EX. But, you're getting, like, really, really good defense stats, like 257 defense, 213 on special defense. That's all both over 200. And then you got, 500 HP, which, again, it's not the best, but these defenses definitely do make up for it. The speed could be better, but, it's okay, I guess. The special attack is almost 300, which is really good for a tech unit. But, again, you won't be doing damage with them. You don't have any good damage dealing moves. But you have it's basically the highest percentage chance to poison any unit in the game. And I don't think anyone is close at all in this game, right? Poison gas gives you a 90% chance to poison the whole opponent's team, right? It's an AoE poison, 2 gauge, 90% accuracy. It's not badly poison, it is poison, but generally badly poison difference isn't too large. When the opponents do have like lesser poison or whatever, right? So that doesn't really matter that much. It's mainly there to trigger certain passives like Jessie's toxic power, or I guess whoever Salazar's toxic power, and other poison based passives, or even Crobat's Venoshock, right? Extra damage from Crobat's Venoshock, or say Venom Drench from either Technidoqueen or Aridos, right? So poison cast is amazing. You got X defense to increase your defense even further, and then for your trainer move, you also have +2 on special defense twice, +4 on special defense, and it also heals you as well. So like this is a great free to play tank. It's probably one of the better free to play tanks in the game, really, right? And that also gives you AoE poison, and it's just overall I think it's a great unit. And when it gets taken out, okay, you get extra bit of damage on last word as well, which is not a big deal. I don't really care too much about it. Oh, also you got a decent sync move over here as well, right? So overall, James Weezing, I do think it's slightly underrated at the moment. But in comparison to the other units, again, it's not really fair. The other are like Gacha units they all have like 6-star EXs as well, along with Synchro expansion. So there's that. Anyways, moving on to next one. I think the next one is probably Silvally. Silvally is great if you're new to the game and you don't have too many different types of strikers, and if you're struggling with some like easier content, right? Because Silvally is very bad for a lot of the harder content, right? Because if you check out Gladion over here, Gladion has a bit of an identity issue. It doesn't really know what it's trying to do, right? It has good HP. Everything else is the same, right? But here's the issue with all the stats being the same, because that's Silvally's gimmick, right? In the main series, it's supposed to have all the stats the same. It's like a mini Arceus in that sense, sort of. But for Silvally, in this game, unfortunately, having all the same stats just means that you're getting the same attacks with the same defenses, which are very, very different, because 200 defenses is very, very good. 200 attack is terrible. So, and 200 speed's, again, not insanely great either. So basically what you get in Silvally is it's a very bulky, it's just a very bulky unit that doesn't have heals if you don't go to Sync Grid, right? So it's an okayish tank, I guess. I don't think it has any, it doesn't have any, like, defense or special defense buffs either. Like, it's, like, everything in here is offensive, right? Everything in here is offensive, and everything in here is defensive. Which is, yeah, it's just, right? But anyways, moving on to the moveset. Crush Claw is, like, basically, it's only reliable. It's not even that reliable because it's, like, gem. And that's the weird thing. Like, it's a tech unit, but it really doesn't do any tech stuff. Other than have, like, 30% or 40% chance of lowering the opponent's, or is that 50%? Something like that. Chance of lowering the opponent's defenses on a Crush Claw. It's not even guaranteed, right? Like, Lusamine even guarantees, and she's a striker. She guarantees to lower the opponent's attack by 1 every move, right? On lunge. Got X attack, multi-attack, which has very, very good base power, 125 base power, right? And then changes to whatever type you are. And last one, the trainer move, which is what makes everything work here. My Mind is Made Up, which changes the user's type to that of the target's weakness, changes the user's own weakness to the type, and the types of the user's multi-attack and audacious multi-attack drastically raises user speed. So here's the issue here, right? It only has 1 MP. So basically what that means, and this is what I mean when I say it's not good for any hard content, right? Some stuff like Full Force Battle or the hard stages in Battlefield that has multiple layers of opponents that have all different weaknesses, generally all different weaknesses. Once you change your your type to that of the first line's, your opponent line's weakness, you can't really change it anymore, right? So if, for example, the first 3 units in, like, a stage are weak to, let's just take Sawyer's stage, for example, right? First 3 units are weak to dark, right? If I remember correctly. So you use My Mind is Made Up, and then you change to dark, and that's fantastic. Your multi-attack is now super effective against all the units over there. Once you take them out, you're out of MP, and you do not have MP refresh on the trainer move, right? And then you're now dark type, but the next set of enemies is weak to steel, and then the next set of enemies after that is weak to fighting. So your dark type is kind of useless after that. And again, with these abysmal stats, or offensive stats, I mean, the defenses are good, but with the really abysmal offensive stats, you're just not doing anything with it, right? Like, people joke about how bad Typhlosion's special attack stat is. Typhlosion has 280 something special attack. That's like almost 100 more, right? And with the extra capabilities that he has, now with expanded synchro, like, dude's like a top 5 damage dealer in the game, right? But without that, even, right, like, this dude is nowhere close to Typhlosion's, levels, right? So there's that, I guess. It's much better for the stages that are, that only have, like, 1 layer of opponents, right? Which generally aren't as hard. There are some exceptions, right? Some legendary arena stages, if they don't change their weakness, like what they did with Latios, right? Or what's the other one? Champion Stadium sometimes. But yeah, that is definitely a huge issue there, that you have to be aware of. But again, if you're new to the game, you don't have too many good strikers. It's okay. It doesn't do crazy damage, but it's something to substitute if you don't have specific type that you really need for a stage, right? Because in general, just bringing something super effective is still better than bringing something that's really good but not super effective, because you got that extra 2 times on the super effective damage, right? Which you generally do not want to miss out on. So again, as for this guy's sync grid, where is it? Silvally. Silvally. As for this guy's Synchro, right? Has some decent stuff in there. Super duper effective food definitely helps with that damage. HP advantage 3 is okay. It's not too much of a buff. It's only, what, 1.5 times at max HP, right? Vigilance is fine. And my favorite node on the whole kit, honestly, is just follow through, or not follow through 9. Where is it? Oh, over here. Hit and heal 9 on my mind's makeup. I just think he's better as a tank than using him as a damage healer, which again, he's fine as a damage healer. He's just got on roll on Crush Claw, so that kind of helps learn the opponent's defense, I guess, sort of. You got double down 3 as well. Like, the Synchron's fine. The Synchron's not bad. It's just, overall, the unit is just not as bad as the other two. So, as for the last two, I had a bit of trouble, trying to see which one's better, because these two are really, really close. These two are both really good. I do think Clefairy has a slight edge, because I think Clefairy has a better 6-star EX than Pheromosa, right? So let's talk about that, right? First of all, for Pheromosa, Pheromosa is fantastic, has insanely good stats offensively, and the defensive stats are not as bad as people think, because it has endurance, it has heals, and since it has beast boost, right, you have +6 on your attack and special attack, and you got self-buff crits. You don't need to bring an offensive support, so you could always bring a defensive support. If you give it +6 defenses, it's as tanky as any other striker in the game, right? And once you raise it to 20 out of 20, you get more stat gains from the 20 out of 20 than most other units in the game, percentage wise, because it's so low to begin with, right? So like 40 extra defenses is just so much more than more gains than any other units would get, even though it's, again, same stats, but as a percentage wise, it's much, much better, right? And those then with like +6 defenses, that's you're fine. You're actually one of the better, more tanky units in the game, right? However, I don't think its offense is as good as people think it is, because it doesn't have like insane multiplier. It's still, it's still a really, really good damage dealer. It just doesn't get, it's just not, Garchomp or Singsu Red levels damage, right? It's still very, very good. And it is 2 types, right? Bug, and Ice, which are all, Bug, I don't think is as useful, just because there's a lot of other bug type strikers in the game, although I do think she might be the best of all of them. But then on the other hand, she also does have an ice type move, which is fantastic, which we don't have as many ice type strikers, especially if you missed out on Ice Steven, right? So overall, fantastic unit. Its Synchro I don't think is too crazy. It's good. It's a good Synchro. It's not like insanely good. You got SDE 1 on Blizzard. You got Powerflux 3, which is especially good for Pheromosa, because Pheromosa has like insanely high speed with passive move gauge refresh 4, so you basically get move gauge refresh every time on that. And then, well, not every time, but it chance to trigger move gauge refresh every time on any move. And then you got like individual move gauge refresh on like every well, that's NPR, on every single move, right? Which like Lusamine is just insanely good gauge wise, probably the best in the game, hands down, in that department, right? So insanely fast move gauge regen, overkill on move gauge regen with stuff like Rejuvenate 6, Speedy Entry 1, right? And you also got stuff like Bug Buzz on roll 2 for only 8 energy as well, and then Blizzard Hostile Environment. Like, it's just a fantastic unit. The reason I don't think, the reason why I like, again, these are pretty close. Like, you could put them in the same, amount, in terms of importance, I guess, and I wouldn't disagree, right? The reason why I do think Clefairy is slightly better, because I do think she has better 6-star EX. First of all, it just supports 6-star EX, gives you double the stat boosts on your first sync move, and it synergizes very, very well with Clefairy, and we'll talk about that, right? Because Clefairy does have synchro healing on her passive, which restores of the HP of all allied sync pairs after using a sync move, so it gives you more incentive to use Clefairy's sync move, right? But as a unit in general, like, I think she has like something else on her sync move, right? Clefairy. Or am I tripping? Oh, she also has, Adrenaline 1 as well, too, with that sync move. So it's very, very, very profitable to go for that first sync move on Clefairy. It doesn't have to be the first in the whole game, but, you have to use it. I would recommend at least using it once. It's just, you get so much stuff from that. You heal, you get sync move countdown after that, and also you get the double sync buff from it as well. It's very valuable over there. But as for the unit in general, it's okay. It's a good support. It's definitely not bad. Group Dragon Guard's kind of random. But when you think about it, it's probably just to save Silvally, because Silvally, if you turn it into Dragon type, it's weak to Dragon type, so it's probably just to help her brother out there. Fainting Cleanse, I think, is really bad. As for everything else, not that great of an HP for tank, but not terrible, considering you have really good defenses here. And, you know, that's why I think people are slightly sleeping on Weezing. Like, Weezing is a free-to-play sync pair, and at 5 stars, like, Weezing has, like, you know, as much tankiness as Clefairy does, right? And Clefairy has much more special defense, and then Weezing is better defenses, right? Special attack's not, I mean, it's a support, it's whatever. Speed is bad, straight up. As for some other stuff, she has some really nice stuff here on her crit. X accuracy, all the first unit to ever do that, right? You got full power, which drastically raises attack and special attack, ensures the next attack will be a crit. Again, like I mentioned before, I would have much more loved if it was just like +1 crit instead. But on the other side, ensure guaranteed crit is really good for sync nukers, which, you know, Silvally is as well, right? You could sort of sync nuke with Silvally. Because, you know, that ensures a guaranteed crit on your sync move, because sync moves are never 100%, right? Even if you're at +3 crit, it's not 100%. It's +3 crit is 100% on your regular moves, but not on your sync moves, right? Sync moves is 80%, so you do have a 20% chance to not get that off. So full power, I do think it's for that, which is nice, I guess. But again, I would prefer to just be +1 crit instead. And then drastically, it is our first, if I remember correctly, this should be our first support that buffs attack on a trainer move that has a refreshable. Oh no, it's not. Meganium. Never mind. Okay, the second, I guess. But it's more reliable. But yeah. Again, this is fine. This is good. Moonblast is Moonblast, I guess. You could do decent damage with Clefairy, because Clefairy actually has some damage stuff on her grids. SDE2. What else? SDE2. I think there's something. You know, just regular power-ups, I guess. Never mind. I guess SDE2 was like. I really remember there was something else. Wasn't there? Oh, Brutal Clarity. There's the other one. Brutal Clarity and SDE2. Powers up moves the more your accuracy has been raised. And then again, super duper effective too. That's super duper effective too. And I mean, if you're ever going to use Clefairy as striker, it's only going to be against very weak stages anyway. So that makes a lot of sense. And as for other stuff in her sync grid, you know, you got stuff like X accuracy all catalytic cure 9, restores your own HP every time you use X accuracy all, which is nice. It does cap though, but it's fine, right? I mean, it's overkill anyways. Adrenaline 1 we mentioned before. Antitoxin is fantastic, especially for only 3 energy, right? There's Escape Artist as well, 3 energy as well. Very, very good stuff. Toughen Up, Tighten Up are great as well. I do like that. Unfortuitous on Disarming Voice to make her like a pseudo Mew, right? With you know, Disarming Voice, which is AoE. So there's that as well. Snow Shelter, Sand Shelter for some reason. I mean, if you want to run her in those teams, that's great as well. If not, pointless. Fainting Heal, I don't like. Yeah, that's all, I guess. Yeah, new units, they're all good. Even Weezing. But again, Weezing is, it's a free-to-play unit without a sync grid. Take that a grain of salt, but for a free-to-play sync pair without a sync grid, I do think it's pretty fantastic. Everything else is good. Yeah, like even Silvally's not bad. It's just not as useful for players who've I guess played the game for a bit longer, right? Has most of the free-to-play strikers, at least, and has some, you know, Sun Bowl strikers, right? For other types. And doesn't mean you need, like, all types, right? You know, get a few of them, or a decent amount of them, you should be fine. Yeah, because, like, types like, I guess, like, electric generally aren't really useful, right? But, I mean, there are, like, niche uses, I guess. Hey, you get to use it this time in Champion Stadium, but then again, we already have Hau, so. But yeah, anyways, that's pretty much this one. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know you guys think in the comments down below. Like and enjoy this video, subscribe to my channel for some more Pro Masters content. I will be streaming summons for Lusamine when that drops, so tune in for that. That should be fun. And I'll see you guys tonight there then.